James, what large exposure restrictions, levies, structural measures do Treasury and finance professionals need to adhere to?
Large exposure restrictions, Danny, are one of the key strands of the new regulatory framework that banks in particular have got to adhere to. BankSense work primarily with corporates, but I think it's a regulation that has some elements of best practice which can be applied to the corporate world, because effectively what it's saying is that you are restricted in terms of how much of your balance sheet can be held with an individual institution, and what it's trying to seek to address is the risk that your organisation could be brought down by the failure of a market participant or a group of market participants. So I think what we're seeing is corporate treasurers, even in SME enterprises all the way up, are starting to think about actually spreading the risk of the balance sheet across multiple providers, and that's how I think it's trickling down. Again, in order to do that, then I think there's a role that technology can play to automate some of these rules and provide the relevant information when lines have been crossed or predefined limits have been breached straight to corporate treasury, so that corporate treasury's job doesn't become one of spending 80% of their day compiling information to make sure that they're complying with either large exposures in the case of a bank or a similar sort of internal risk framework that they've devised for a corporate. So I think it's good practice that we're seeing across corporate treasury regardless of the type and size of organisation. You touched on levies as well. We're in an environment at the moment where actually customers are finding that they're incurring a levy on long balances in euros, for example, in the form of negative credit interest. Because of that, we're going to see a proliferation of alternatives. So this is a fairly unique situation which corporate treasurers are facing, and this is inevitably leading to the fintech community and other providers seeking to find ways using technology to allow corporate treasurers to make better use of their cash balances. And with the BankSense product, that's exactly the area of the market that we're looking to address, is to insert ourselves in between the corporate and the bank using technology and providing a software layer to allow corporate treasurers to gather information much quicker, make more timely decisions, and therefore deploy their cash balances in a more productive manner for better returns and avoiding some of these levies.